Hey everyone, good day to you. My name is Timmie Ng, and today in lesson 2 of my AMV tutorial I'm going to show you how to progress your AMV preparing in Sony Vegas Pro 11. Well, as you can see, before you're going to start by recording or creating this AMV, you have to make sure that you always, when you're preparing this, making this AMV, you have to make sure that everything what you need has been settled before you go to Vegas Pro 11. Well, today I'm going to show you now how to make the progress from the beginning till the end of your AMV production. Okay, let's start with. Well, before you're going to start with Vegas Pro 11 over here, is because you have to make sure that everything, when you start AMV editing, you need to prepare your footage, of course. Well, to start with it, let's go to the internet. Well, before you're going to create your AMV or preparing your source, to make sure that the quality of your source is very good, you have to make sure that everything what you need every tool you need has to be prepared. Well, as you can see, here's Avisynth. Avisynth is a very interesting script file that you need to prepare to make sure that you can encode your videos very well. Now make sure that you have installed Avisynth before you're going to start collecting your anime sources. Well, as you can see, type here in Google Avisynth and you can find here free download Avisynth 2.6.0. As you can see, this is actually the place where you can download the Avisynth. Well, after Avisynth has been downloaded, you have to check on your start button that you have already installed Avisynth already. Yeah, got already here. And you have to make sure that Avisynth has this kind of icon when you install this tool, script tool. Okay, that's the first step. The second step what you need is the UT video codec. This is actually the most recent codec that every AMV editor is using for HD footage, by full HD footage as well, and half HD footage. That's the 1080p and the 720p. And if you want to download the UT video codec, it's free. You can download here on freecodecs.com, and you have to make sure that everything what you need here, free codec suite, has been selected, and you can download it over right here. Well, that's about the part of preparing your script tools and your tools to encode your video and to convert your video. Well, the next step what we're going to do is install the program Megui. You can also find it on Google. Just type in on Google Megui and you can also find this for free. This is also a free converting tool, but this is actually a converting tool that's much less time. You have to spend less time with this converting program. Well, if you install Megui, you have to make sure that everything you have is settled. Now you select file, you're going to open the file, we're going to look for the footage you want to convert. Okay, well I already prepared my footage, so let's do this. Here, AMV tutorial lesson 2. Already got here in the footage. As you can see, everything what I said here is MKV files and AV files. Now, as you can see, MKV doesn't like Sony Vegas, and he also won't accept MKV in Sony Vegas. So what we're going to do is not going to convert the file, we're going to make a script file. And this actually, I'm going to explain you in the next step when I'm going to start Virtualdub. That's the next part of our tutorial. But before we're going to do it, when you're going to edit an AMV, you have to also think about resolutions, because every kind of different footage you have old animes, but you also have the slightly half old animes, and you have of course our generation of now animes like 1080p and 720p. But before the period of the 1080p and the 720p generation, we actually had 480p sources or 360p sources or 576p sources. Well, that's actually kind of old traditional classical animes from the year 19s animes. Like for example, we have here Sailor Moon. That's actually a very kind of old 4:3 resolution anime footage, but we also have 16:9 anime footage, it's DVD. And we also have Black Cat, that's 480p, it's standard 864 resolution. But we're now going to give you, of course, the 1080p. I have here an example source of the Kami-sama no Ichai Nichobi source, and we're going to open this file. Now he's going to ask you what kind of script he wants to make. Now we have to make sure that the file index has been selected to FMS index. This is actually a kind of a technical term. I won't explain too much about it. That's actually a codec. a codec you actually can install on the computer. You can also find it on freecodecs.com. That's what I've mentioned 3 minutes ago. Alright, you have to make sure every step you're taking this, you have to file indexer. Now the file indexer, you have to make sure that you always select no audio. That's the most important thing. You're going to click on Q. Alright, he's already now saved the file for you. Now you have to go to the next step, is the Q file. And you have to make sure that this has been selected. And you click on Start to make sure that he will process the process of your... He's now going to scripting. As you can see, he already now scripted the file for you into a Avisynth script file. This is actually the file you need to import it in Virtualdub to make sure that you have the script file and you don't have to convert it, because he already get you the process to Virtualdub. Well, as you can see, I already got here the video of Sunday Without God. It's the English title of the video. Yeah, it's a full 1080p source file. Well, this is correct. You have to make sure you minimize this and click on Save. You will appear it again. Ignore this part. You can click on Minimize and click on Auto Encode. After you're done auto encode, this is actually the final part. What you have to do is you're going to put the container to M2TS and then no target size. And then after that you clicked on Q. Now he has already saved the AV script file. As you can see, the AV script file is already here inside of it. He's already saved the destination file into my AMV tutorial Lesson02 project settings map. And if I already go back to, alright, already finished this part. After you've done this, you have to check if the Avisynth already been created in the queue session. Yes, it's been created already. So already the Avisynth has already been created. Now the next step what you're going to do is to go to Virtualdub. This is also actually a free software program where you can cut your anime sources from the whole file without converting your AMV if you use the Avisynth method. I know this is going to be a long process, but this is actually the best part to convert your AMV footage without converting your MKV files to a bigger file or something. You have already created your script file. Now, after you've done that, you're going to File, you're going to click Open Video File, and going to select the place where you saved your Avisynth file. Now, as you can see, I already saved it in the Ds and the AMV tutorial Lesson02 project settings, what I mentioned before. Now, as you can see, hey, here's the AV script file I've created before. Now let's click on Open. You have to take a while, and voila, it's already here. Now as you can see, it's already been 100% zoom it. I'm going to make both sides 50%. Now as you can see, if I already play this video, this is actually the part where the video is going to play. And if you want to make sure that everything has been exported or encoded, you can see. Alright, this is Virtualdub. Virtualdub is actually a place where you can make sure that you can export or converting your sources where you want to cut, and to make sure you can export it. Okay, the next step what you're going to do after you already placed your Avisynth file into this script, you're going to make sure everything that you have been selected has also been selected for your exporting session. Now you go to Video and go to Compression. You have to make sure that everything has been checked. Well, we're not going to use uncompressed because uncompressed is actually too big for an AV file. Oh, you have to also make sure that everything what you're going to export here is AV type files, AV container files. You can also use MP4, but I won't suggest MP4 because MP4 is actually a bad container for editing footage because it's already been compressed, and you also want to work with lossless quality files or with, of course, high quality resolution videos without any compression. It will lose information of your source. Well, that's enough about that part. We're going to take the next step of the process. We have to make sure you always select the UT video RGB. This is actually the most standard issue for your file. Now you have to make sure that everything has been selected here. Optimize decoding speed, protect left. I won't explain that too much. Make sure you always select this part of my tutorial, and you click on OK. The next part is audio. You have to make sure there's no audio selected. Click on no audio. And now you're finished with the basic process to exporting your sources. Well, if you want to select a source you think from, oh, that's actually a kind of beautiful scene I want to have? Well, I'm going to select this kind of part. You can also use your mouse tool. He's always going to calculate your source file. Well, as you can see, everything is very beautiful encoded here because it's a 1080p for the source. If you want to select a scene, you might think from, hey, this is actually a cool scene I want to have. Well, you select on the keyboard button, there's a home button and an end button. Those are actually your start point of your converting your source and the end point of your source. Now, when you, actually I want to select this source, I'm going to select home. As you can see, he's already selecting your frame now. Now, if you want to make sure that you want to think from, oh, I want to move a little bit forward, he's going to move. You can use actually your arrow keys from left and right arrow keys to make sure that he will select frame by frame your source. Well, he's going to select the source now. I'm going to move a little bit forward. If you think from, oh, this is actually not the part I want to start, then you have to make sure you have to press End again. And you have to press home again for the start point of your video. You think, oh, okay, no, this is actually not my part from, oh, right, no, this is not the part I want. This is actually a nice scenery. So let's go to start here, the home part. And we're going to move the scene. Right here I want to stop. Okay. Then you have to select End. Now as you can see, you already trimmed all this, the scenes you already took from, from the first start to the end of the start. You will now converting that part of your source of the video. Well, as you can see, already selected everything you have selected here. Okay, you said I'm done to selecting my source. Then you go to File. Then you go to Save as AV. And then you're going to select the place where you're going to save the part of your source. As you can see, I already put it on the AMV tutorial lesson 1 and 2. Then I'm going to select and call it scene 1 underscore 1080p or something, whatever you want to know or whatever you want to name it from, to make sure you're going to structure your source clearly. Right. We're going to select the scene 1/1080p. I'm going to click on save, and as you can see, he's now calculating the video file, what you already have been selected from home till end. The blue line part of your source. Now, everything you have been selected has been done here. Okay, that's actually a part of the 1080p source. If you want to go for the 720p source, they have to start over again from your Megui part. I'm going to minimize this part, and I'm going to continue on the... You have to make sure everything you created here, you have to also make sure that when everything has been done from your first part of your source has been clean. So you have to start over again by collecting the other part files. If you want to work with the 720p, it's also the same progress, but now for 720p file. Now we're going to select Excel World as anime source. We're going to select no audio and Q, and we're going to make a new script file again. Now, as you can see, this is Excel World. Alright, beautiful. Lovely scenes. Yeah. Alright. Okay. Then we're going to save the script, because we already got here in the script editor creator. I'm going to save it, and it will appear again. And then you have to make sure you're going to click on auto encode and make sure it's M2TS. It's the same just in the previous 1080p source file. And click on Q. And you already created the Avisynth file, and then we're going to look it for in Virtualdub. And we're going to open the video file, and we're going to select the Excel World 720p source. Now, as you can see, we can already turn to a 100% resolution. And as you can see, we got here the source of Excel World. Without any converting, only just the script file. And it's very easy. Alright, if you think I want to have this part, then make sure it's home. And I'm going to select end again for the end of your part. I think, oh, this is actually a beautiful closing. Then we're going to select end. I have to make sure that everything has been selected to no audio direct stream copy. And you have to make sure that it's the full processing mode. Combining with compression, you have to make sure that it has been selected on UT video codec RGB. That's actually a final check before you're going to export it. And you're going to click on File, Save as AV. I'm going to call this scene to underscore 720p because it's a 720p source. And he's going to calculate the part what I selected. Right, let's go back to the previous part. Again, back to Megui, because we also have different resolutions. We're going to open, and we're going to make a script file of another source. Now, as you can see, we're also working with 1080p source in 4:3, because you also have remakes of anime series like Angelic Layer. Angelic Layer is actually in the process period when it was 4:3, and the 1080 source in 4:3. Now, we're going to select Angelic Layer in 1080p style with 4:3. Now, we're going to select no audio because we're going to, it's actually, you have to repeat it again in the same progress like before. We're going to delete all the things of Excel World, and we're going to use Angelic Layer to make a new script file. Well, as you can see, this is actually 4:3, and he already makes the source file of Angelic Layer. As you can see, the quality is a little bit old, but it's already been remastered. Okay, and I'm going to select the script file again. I'm going to click Save. He's going to create this again, and you have to make sure that it's auto-encoded. And you're going to make sure MT2S is selected no target size, and you already created the AVS file again. Now we're going to Virtualdub again, click Open Video File, and I'm going to select the source of Angelic Layer. As you can see, it's too big. We cannot see the resolution of the... Well, as you can see, it's the same part again. You have to select a part of your scene where you think this is actually a beautiful part. Now we're going to select this part. I'm going to press home again, and we're going to select a place where you can scroll or skip. I'm going to suggest the arrow keys because you can go turn, back, and you can go forward. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to select this part of the video. As you can see, there's a little bit black bar inside. You can fix that by make sure you find the correct aspect ratio. But I'm going to use the unknown ratio or the free adjust. But you can also fix that in the later time in your video. Well, I really don't like this part. I'm going to select till the part when Hikaru and Misaki Susuhara is going to hold their hands. Yes, I think this part is going to finish. Alright, then I'm going to save as AV. Scene 3. And we can go to call this 1440 till 1080p, because this is actually a 4:3 and not 16:9 source. The other two, the scene 1 1080p and the scene 2 720p, are 16:9 widescreen, and this is actually the 4:3 TV standard old aspect ratio, screen ratio resolution. I'm going to save it. I cannot use this because he's going to ask me I cannot use characters, so I'm going to call this. And he's going to calculate it again. And also make sure that the audio has been selected to no audio. You have to make sure that the compression, but it's always been selected on UT video codec because you already opened your screen and you don't have to close Virtual, because if you close Virtualdub, then he will, then you have to start to correct those settings again. Right. Okay, then we're going to, we're already done the 4:3. Then we're going to do another file, but we're going to use now an older file. We're going to use Black Cat. No audio, repeat it again, remove the Angelic Layer parts of the It's no problem. He's going to warn you that, but it's okay. He won't crash or something. And let's go make the new script file again. Yeah, here it is. It fits. Oh, it's actually I did a mistake. Sorry. I have to actually first go to save, and then we have to go to auto-encode. And then we're going to make it main MT2S file and no target size. And then, yay, here it is. We have the AVS file again. Right. After we done that, we're going to we're going to Virtualdub. And we're going to open the script file. You have to make sure that everything you want to make a script file is called AVS file. You can also see it here over here from the 1080p source from Sunday Without God. And we have here also a script file from Black Cat. There's also an old anime footage to make sure we can already make this 100% because it's a very small resolution. But if you want to work with this kind of anime footage, you have to make sure that also this is a correct ratio and don't upscale it to 720p or 1080p or something. It will get a lot of blurry in your source. You have to make sure that the footage always work on the original resolution of your footage. Now, if I want to have this part of Black Cat, and I'm going to select, press home again, and then we're going to take the part now for the next part of your source. It's going to run. There's Swen Wallfield, and then we have Eve. I'm going to back for this part, and I'm going to close it on here. And then press end. And you selected that part of and he's going to convert that part. Now, as you can see, I already put my settings on UT video codec. And UT video codec is one of the best part to encode your source. Now, I'm going to select scene 4. I'm going to make more tempo in this tutorial. It's also a 480p. And I'm going to save it. Okay. You already selected Black Cat source. Okay. Alright. The next part we're going to do is we're going back to Megui again because we also have different. We're going to clear the files first. He's always going to give you a warning about it. Don't worry about it. You will still save the Avisynth script file. Now we're going to use the source of Sailor Moon. No audio. And I'm going to cue this. And he's going to save already the Sailor Moon part source. Yeah. Okay, then we're going to save this file because you already get the script creator. We're going to save the script. And after we save the script, we're going to use auto-encode to make sure he will save entirely the script and the whole information of the file. Q again, this just like the same part in the Black Cat, Angelic Layer, Excel World, and Sunday Without God source. Okay, that's the part of it. We're going back to Virtualdub. You already put the Avisynth script file. We're going to Virtualdub back again. I'm going to open video file. Hey, you already created Sailor Moon's part. We're going to open it, and as you can see, he also took the part of this video. I'm going to start in this part of the video. Home, and we're going to render a part of the source. Anything you like. And we're going to stop at Luna. I'm going to file, and I'm going to save as AV. I'm going to call this scene 5 underscore 480p underscore TV standard, because it's actually an old resolution of the TV standard. And as you can see, we have here different kinds of source files. This is actually the most recent part where most AMV editors are now starting, but we also have AMV editors that also want to create old footage AMV and how to make sure that the resolution is also corrected on the old resolutions of the old classical anime sources. Yeah, I'm going to save it. He's going to also save it on UT video codec. Alright, that's this part. Now, we have now done all the sources part, and we also did the first part of our preparing our anime sources in different kinds of resolutions. Well, the next part we're going to do is to import them in Vegas Pro 11. Well, I'm using Vegas Pro 11, it's because it actually most kind of recent program I'm using now for this kind of generation. We also have Vegas Pro 12 and Vegas Pro 13 already, but I think Vegas Pro 11, in my opinion, is actually a quite nice, decent start for AMV editors who want to use Vegas. Okay, before I'm going to start preparing the sources, you have to make sure everything you've been selected here, the project and the preview, has been in 1080p and 20 and the screen resolution for each second. Well, you can always change that, but before we're going to change that, I'm going to import all the sources. Well, as you can see, this is actually not the destination I want to be. I'm going to AMV tutorial, and here are actually the scenes I've been converting during this part of this tutorial with different kinds of resolutions. Well, I'm going to import it. He's going to recognize everything because we already been selected. Hey, this is not the correct one. This is actually the... these are the 5 different resolutions you can have in your AMV sources because you have older footage and sources. Alright. We're going to start with the 1080p version because that's actually the most recent, highest resolution you can get now on anime footage. Well, I ran it already Sunday without guard source. Now, after you import it, you're going to select the scene over here and drag and drop it over here. As you can see, I have no sound on the screen, and you have to make sure that everything when you start, you have to make sure you go to File and go to Save the file before you're going to start the project. And I'm going to the data, save the file, always to Vegas Pro project file, call it AMV/project. Name it whatever you want, but make sure you have to have a good structure on your project one. And save. Now, he's already saved your AMV, and if you want to make sure you want to, every time you edit a part, make sure you always use Ctrl+S in your keyboard. Make sure that everything you've been editing part for part has been saved. Well, this part is actually a very basic, decent for how to create your AMV. Now, after you have to make sure that everything when you select it, you go to the project settings, video properties, and you have to make sure that everything has been selected correctly. Well, the most important thing in your AMV part is the video and the audio part. These two I'm going to handle, and this part you have to ignore. We're going to handle video and audio. Now, we're going to start with video. You have to make sure everything you've been selected has been template into. It's the HD 1080 24p 1920 by 1060. 1920 by 1080. This is actually the most basic recent ones. You also have to make sure that everything when you encode has been the same video resolution and the same screens per second, frames per second settings. If both of them are correctly the same as the source, then you have to also make sure that the project is also the same screen resolution and the same screens per second and the same pixel x ratio. But we always suggest you always to work on square, on 1 pixel. And you have to make sure that the field order is placed on progressive. This is actually a technical part of it, but always make sure it's always progressive. Because ignore those two, because this will get your anime source screen lines, and you don't want to have screen lines in your AMV. And you have to make sure always put it on scan, progressive scan. It's actually a technical part. I won't explain too much on it because we're going to stick on the basics. And make sure that the widescreen part is 1920 and standard 1080. And make sure that the full resolution quality is best. But if you have a less strong computer, then you have to work on preview or on good. But I have a strong computer, so I'll work on best. And click on apply and then OK. Alright, we already selected the scene. And as you can see, you can also work on frame by frame. This is part of the scene. Yeah. You have to make sure that everything when you edit in Vegas has been blending fields. And you always have to turn that off when you edit an AMV. Because when he's going to render your source, he will give blending fields. You have to make sure that every source you've been turning here in this video has been turning off. Well, I have here Sunday Without God scene here. And you have to make sure that go to Properties, click on Maintain Aspect Ratio Gone, and disable Resample. There's actually a basic part. Every source you place here on the timeline has been selected off. Disable Resample and Maintain Aspect Ratios off. And then you don't have no blending fields anymore in your source. Then everything has been clean and you can start editing your AMVs by this part of your video. You can also trim a little bit your timeline. You can also select Fade Offset here. And you have to make sure when you start an AMV project, you have 1 and 2 seconds black. The reason why I'm going to tell you this is because we have actually a lot of AMVs that will actually start immediately without any rest moments. And you have to make sure, if you want to show an AMV to the viewer on YouTube, or you want to show it on an AMV competition on an anime convention, please make sure that the viewer get enough time to paying attention to your whole AMV. So make sure after you play your AMV, make 2 seconds black. And you have a really beautiful start. And you close it. And this is actually a part you want to render. I think okay. Then you have to select this whole part. And go to File, Render S. And now you're going to render this UT video codec file into a compressed video file, because you're going to think from, okay, if you think my AMV has been finished, or you think, oh, the whole AMV has been done, then you go to File, I repeat again, File, Render S, and you go to Main Concept, AVC, MP4, and you're going to customize the template. You're going to select the Internet HD 1080p, but you're going to customize the template, because we're going to save the AMV into project1_1080p. And we're going to select the Internet HD and I'm going to customize the template. As you can see, this is not correctly. We also have to customize the video. And we're going to use the frame size 1080p, it's still 10 of 80. The profile is, I won't explain it too much. This is actually, you have to make sure that the profile is selected on high, and the frame rate is set on 23 instead of 976 TVC film, because we're going to work with this resolution and the frame rate. This is actually the part when it's going to calculate each frame per second, and he's going to calculate 23 till 976 pictures for each second. And we're going to now use the field order. I'm going to use non-progressive scan, pixel aspect ratio, and we're going to use the number of ratio parts, use the deblocking filter. This is actually a very good part of your encoding, because this is actually a function he will improve the quality, but he also will remove the dirt of your in your screens. He's going to also use going to calculate the whole video, and using deblocking filter by clean all the dirts in your scenes, and that's also a good part. Actually, the pixels, the dirty pixels, and you always use variable bitrate, because this actually part you will always improve the quality, and it's 2 pass. Well, this is actually a too hard amount of your calculation. We're always going to use the 10. Don't go lower. Don't go to 4 or 2. I always suggest 10. And we're going to use the encode mode that the PC is going to calculate. And I make sure that has been thinking include audio. The sample rate is 48, and you have to make sure it's 320. And you click on, I'm going to repeat. You have to make sure that everything has been selected here. Spatial aspect ratio is 1. Number reference is 2. That's correctly. Then 80, and I'm going to click on OK. And after you've done that, you're going to click on render, and he's going to render the part of your video. Well, that's about a part of your starting your project settings and starting your making your AMV project. And now I'm going to show you as well to apply those in the different scenes. I'm going to delete this one, and I'm now going to do the 720p source. Now, before we go into do that, we're not going to place it on the time. We're going to change the project settings because we're now working with 1280 until 720. If you're working with 720p sources, to make sure that everything has been selected is okay here, and the deinterlace method, always put a none and click on apply. As you can see, this is the 1280p sources. So I'm going to select the file here. Always 2 seconds black if this is your AMV. And if you think the AMV has been finished, you can select this part. Click on Render S. And we also have to customize the template again because we're working now at 720p. Now we don't have audio. I'm going to ignore that part. This is actually too high. This is actually quite good. 10. And render is if this is your final decision for AMV. Then render it. Right. That's also the part of that one. And I'm also going to apply it on each source. Well, as you can see, this is actually videos stand for the 2460, and you have to make sure you change the resolution to 1440 instead of 1080. See, you will also change the resolution of your AMV. Well, as you can see, this is actually not correctly, but we're going to use properties and we're going to maintain aspect ratio and disable resample the video part. And if you think, oh, there's a little bit black bar inside, then you can crop it by selecting the normal edit tool, and you can crop it in. Yeah, and you're going to apply it, and I'm going to File. You have to make sure that everything has been selected. Double click on it, and then click on Render S. Customize template. Going to customize the frame size because we don't have the resolution over there. Let's make it 1440 instead of 1080 because it's the resolution. Pixel expression is 0. High, everything has been high. 2 pause. Don't have audio, ignore that part. But if you have audio, you must select it and click on render. Oh, I already called this name, but we have to call this a different name now. 1440 instead of 1080. And render. Hey. There's a small error what I did because it won't calculate the part of my AMV. That's strange. Wait a minute. He has to use this part. Yeah. 1440 is stand of 1080. You have to ignore the part. I think this is actually no, wrong information because I already selected my AMV source file has been selected to 23.976. You saw it already correctly when I put it on the settings. Yeah, it's going to render it. And he's rendering the final process of your source. Alright, now we go to change the project settings again, because we're going to work now on this source file, the 864 tail for ATP. I'm going to customize it again, 864 tail for AT. As you can see, most of the anime sources are 23 still 976. I'm going to apply it again. And it really fits again for Black Cat source. And here's Black Cat. Yeah. If you think this is my AMV, and you're going to double click on it and click on Render S. And we're going to customize the template again, because we're going to change the resolution again to 864 till 480. Hi, everything has been selected. Use the blocking filter, always put it on. 2-pass audio. Okay. Make sure it has been selected, and I'm going to give it a different name. I'm going to call BC, it's called Black Cat. Let's pronounce it. Go to BC it, and I'm going to click on render it. And it's going to render as well the part of the source again, if this was your end of result of your AMV. And we're going to do it the same with the last part of my source file, Sailor Moon. Because Sailor Moon is also a different part. Always check on the resolution. Okay, that's also a different screen resolution. Oh. And I click on apply, and then okay. And we're going to select the part here again. As you can see, he already fits it. Right. Okay, after we done this, then we're going to double click it again. Let's also make sure that everything you render it, you have to check on properties and disable resample. It's been selected and maintain aspect ratio. Okay, then we click on render S. I'm going to give it a different name, and we also have to customize it again because it's a different resolution. 7.4 by standard 480, and it's for standard 3. I'm going to work with audio. Okay. Yeah. And then after that we call it AMV project 1 underscore SN Sailor Moon. Click on Save As and then click on Render. And it's going to calculate as well Sailor Moon. Right. Okay, after you've all done these renderings, we're going to check how the source files were, and we're going to check on that. Here are the files we rendered in the main source files, but we're going to check it on the MP4 files. These are actually your final renders in your template. Now we're going to play a few parts without sound. As you can see, this is actually the part of your it's very quick, and also this part. Yeah. Okay, and you can see this is also a part for Sailor Moon. Right, that's about my tutorial in Sony Vegas to prepare your anime sources. If you want more information about my tutorials, or you want to have any other questions or requests for another tutorial, then you can go to www.youtube.com/FateTRSC, and you can send me a PM or something, and I can look if I can do a request for you for information about the tutorial. Well, this was my lesson about the AMV tutorial about how to prepare your AMV sources in Sony Vegas and how to render it as the final. And I will see you guys next time in another tutorial.